So, welcome everybody to today's interview in the frame of our series CESI Talks. CESI Talks aims at sensitizing both our members but also citizens about the importance or non-importance about the great things or the flaws of the European Union. Also thinking, of course, of the upcoming European elections in 2024. And today I have the particular pleasure to welcome Tiemo Wölken from Germany. Tiemo is member of the European Parliament, member of the S&D group in the European Parliament, and member of several committees. By the way, extremely active. I'm a little bit confused here also with all his activities. Committee on the Environment, Public Health and Food Safety, and Committee on Legal Affairs. Tiemo, welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here again.
Tiemo, the European Green Deal. I mean, there's so much going on at the moment. You're a member of the Committee on the Environment, Public Health and Food Safety. What are the main challenges now in these, let's say, difficult economic and geopolitical times also?
Yeah, that's a very tough question, to be honest. With the climate law, we have taken the first step and defined the clear objective of climate neutrality by 2050 at the latest. This law has been complemented by very ambitious proposals under the Green Deal, especially the Fit for 55 package. And that includes, for instance, new rules on renewable energy and the so-called REPowerEU rules, which improve funding for renewables under the impression of the huge impact of the war against the Ukrainian people. And I believe we are on a good path to significantly improve Europe's climate performance. And I think the 2030 and the 25 targets are still in reach, but we need to keep the pressure high. We need to keep up. We cannot simply afford unnecessary distractions, such as the recent combustion engine ban delay caused by the German liberals. So, we are on track reaching our targets, but we have to work together and not against each other.
Tiemo, was going a little bit also through your documents, and I saw that you have been recently also been in Emden at the IG Metall, so the metal workers in Germany. We also represent quite some workers in the automotive sector. How can the green transition be a fair process? Because we always say, and I think everybody says, and everybody knows it, that by the end of the day, we can only succeed if we don't come to too strong social disruptions. What is your personal opinion here?
I think, first of all, fairness needs to be ensured through certainty. We have a responsibility as policymakers to show the path, to show what is necessary, and to give people time to adjust. This is why regulation like the combustion engine ban is so important. It would phase out the construction of personal combustion engine vehicles by 2035. That means everyone from producers to consumers have 12 years to adjust. But this includes also, of course, workers. Jobs would not need to be cut suddenly, but people would slowly transition to either work on electric vehicles or to different professions. Citizens are not caught by surprise that their combustion engine car suddenly loses value, but they know what to expect down the line. So predictability is important for fairness. And I think we need to support workers as the European Union during the transition. I firmly believe that this approach, in creating predictability, we need to take. So we need to plan ahead, discuss with the stakeholders, discuss with the affected, take their remarks on board, so we can make sure that everybody is able to prepare than rather rush and to confuse and scare people.
Another question related to better regulation. You have been rapporteur of one of the report on better regulation. Now, there has been a huge thing a couple of years ago. We have been from trade union side always a little bit reluctant because better regulation can, of course, also very often mean to cut out important elements of the regulation. What does it mean to you to better regulate?
Better lawmaking should be the goal of all EU lawmakers. So this is the simple answer. It is at the core of our work, since we owe it to citizens, to employers, to employees, to make sure that while European legislation is first of all ambitious, it is also fit for the purpose. It is proportionate, it is clear, it is transparent, and it is comprehensive. This can, however, only be achieved by increasing transparency, accountability, and cooperation between the institutions, hence the member states, citizens, and stakeholders. So better regulation helps us to ensure that EU policies and legislation are geared towards the future and serve society as a whole. So in order to build trust, we need simply transparency. I believe that the most important question in relation to accountability and transparency of the European institutions is the following. Who chooses the person at the top? Right now, the answer is clear, not the people. So nothing does more damage to citizens' trust in the European institutions than the member states taking such an important decision, and I'm speaking about the head of the Commission, behind closed doors in a game of political poker. Even if we reform the regulatory scrutiny board and make the one-in, one-out approach accountable, as long as we do not solve this very fundamental issue, citizens will continue to mistrust the procedures of the European Union, and for good reason. So Commission President Ursula von der Leyen is a product of this closed-door way of making politics in Brussels. How could citizens trust her to increase transparency, accountability of EU lawmaking if she herself embodies the lack of transparency and democratic choice that the EU often is accused of? So a truly accountable, a truly transparent, a trustworthy European project starts, as I outlined at the top. This is why I hope that the next election will finally see the implementation of the Spitzenkandidat process to guarantee that citizens wield the power in the EU, not backroom deals behind closed doors. And this is, for me, the definition of better regulation. It's transparency and it is accountability.
One last question, because I see that you have been also a rapporteur of the opinion on the so-called CCSDD, so the Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive. It is about the preservation of human rights and environmental standards, also when it comes to supply chains. May I ask you how could I phrase this? How realistic is such a proposal in times of supply chains bottlenecks, in times of critical raw materials being more and more difficult to get? I think the approach is fantastic. How do you believe we can make sure that this does not stay some kind of toothless paper tiger?
Yeah, it's a very realistic and very necessary piece of legislation, because with the CSDDD, we ensure that fundamental rights, that human rights don't end at the border of the European Union, but they are applied all over in the world. And we are making sure that there is no unreasonable burden for companies. So they are arguing against it, but we don't. We are going for proportionate rules. We are going for a proportionate approach to hold companies accountable for what they are doing in their supply chains. And let me be clear, there's a lot of misuse happening in the supply chains. And we as the European Union, we benefit from this misuse. And this shouldn't be the case. And on the other hand, with this supply chain approach, we send a clear signal to our partners in other parts of the world. If you work together with us, if you are going in a contract with a European company, you have the security that your rights are upheld. And this is not the case if companies enter into negotiations or contracts with global players from other parts of the world, which maybe don't have an interest for a partnership, but they really want to gain much more. So I'm, of course, looking at China, for example. And I think this is the CSDD is really a fundamental tool to highlight to companies, to people outside of the European Union, we take you serious. We want an equal partnership, and the CSDD is going to guarantee that. And I think this angle is not looked at often enough at the moment. It's more about the possible burdens for companies, but once again, we are opting for a risk-based approach, for a proportionate approach, and we are not throwing roots at companies which are unnecessary. But we will make sure that supply chains are fair, and this is what we should be working for in the European Union.
Tiemo, many thanks. All the best to you. You know that when it comes to social goals, that we always standing also by your side, and all the best in the coming year, and lots of success in your work. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for your time. Thank you.